Hello, everybody. Welcome to Synchronicity, adding pieces to the puzzle. I'm Lynn Monet,
and
this
I'm
is
Anne-Marie Young.
There you go. How are you doing, Anne-Marie? Did you have a wonderful day, I hope?
I sure did. I did. What if I didn't blow away? The wind was crazy.
I know, that's right. Oh my gosh, it's been, and we've got a cold front with freezing coming in over here to kill off all the beautiful buds on the trees. But anyway, you look wonderful tonight. It's great to see you. I'm looking forward. Ann and I are both going to be at the Hagwood Mill Paracon coming up on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. And I believe that Chris and Kristen might be going too. So that would be a wonderful thing.
Yay.
Anyway, we have an absolutely amazing guest that we are so honored to have tonight. He has this brilliant mind, and he's done so many things and to help people advance in their way of thinking. I have a bio for him. I'm actually going to have to read a little bit of it because there's a lot of wonderful things that he has done. So let me go ahead. This is Dr. Michael Lynch. He's a paranormal investigator for over 27 years, which it's hard to believe because he doesn't look like he's old enough. He's been investigating UFOs, ghosts, ancient civilization, and government conspiracies. Dr. Lynch has, over the past 14 years, had a long-running radio segment on 97.1 FM in St. Louis, Missouri, called Paranormal Tuesdays, with guests and talk about all things paranormal. Added to this, his joint endeavor with conspiracyagents.com podcast show, which has been developed over the past 3 years, dealing with government conspiracies. Dr. Lynch, as has been on television, he has been on the Discovery Channel, SyFy Channel, Fox Family, ABC Family, Destination America Channel, and also the National Geographic Channel. He's been on television shows. In other words, this is a big deal. He's been on television shows such as The Scariest Places on Earth, MTV Fear, and it's real. He also has appeared in the documentaries such as Shadow Worlds, The Haunted Boy, Children of the Grave, and Soul Catcher. We would like to, at this time, bring in the host of Off the Cuff, Dr. Michael Lynch. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Are you having a good evening, or well, I guess it's evening now, I guess, in America.
It is. Yeah.
It is, yeah,
we have daylight saving time here, and it kind of throws me off for a little bit. It's just changed over. So I'm kind of like, what?
I am an hour off all the time. And it's like I came in, I thought it was at 7 p.m. Eastern, but no, it's 8 p.m. Eastern. So I'm totally off. I'll be off for another 6 months until we change it again. You know, I'm just that way. So yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on tonight. And we'll do a little show tonight of topics that I've always wanted to get into, but I've never had the opportunity because everybody wants the spooky. And so since I have two lovely female hosts, I thought we'd do a female show, yes, in the paranormal, you know, something that we can try to understand. And of course, a lot of what we're going to talk about tonight is the woman's fault. So if you ever want to see where the paranormal begins and ends, it's going to be with a woman. And we'll talk about that tonight. But there was something else you guys wanted to talk about. I forgot what it was.
Towards the end, if we have time, I wanted to kind of talk about the, let's see, what was it? Sorry, I just dropped something here. Get written down. I can't say the I'm like, yes, thank you.
Tachyons, yes. Okay,
I'm sorry. Yes. I'm back.
Tachyon energy, yes. And we'll get into that. That'll be real quick, but just to prove that I'm not as crazy as I look, I've got a secret surprise for you about tachyon energy, and we'll do that a little bit later on.
Yay!
And that will be shocking to everyone. Everyone should be shocked, not just ancient aliens and UFO people and whatever. You know, this will be shocking. It'll be fascinating to show you that I'm kind of on the right track I may not have all the pieces together, like we're putting the pieces together. And so I may not have all the pieces, but I definitely have the right direction. We're all on the right path. And that's why we all need to kind of come together a little bit to get on the same page. And then so we can then go further into this.
Yeah.
And so now a lot of what I'm going to say tonight is backed up in medical science. I don't have all the footnotes, but I can tell you this is going to be fascinating. So we'll begin tonight. And the beginning of a lot of the paranormal comes with the child and the mother and the child. And people will never be able to, they might be able to put this together, but they're not going to put it together in the way that I kind of see it. So I'm going to give you my reference point of view. And that is when the mother, and inside the body, inside your body, you reverberate noise, sound, and it goes through your body, and it's a vibration. It's just a technical vibration. Inside the body, the sound that a woman will make, especially if she hums or sings, is about 432 hertz. 432 hertz. So when she hums or sings or even listens to music, her body automatically adjusts to it. So it provides certain chemical responses, and also it helps with the immune system. Now, when she's with child, that child is absorbing all of this information vibrationally through vibration. And what a lot of people don't understand is that the child's absorbing it because of the mother, because of the vibration of the mother. And so when she hums, sings, or listens to Mozart or whatever, as a lot of people are now saying that their child will be smarter, their child will be more intuitive, the child will have more response to the environment. And a few hundred years ago, when we didn't have all the entertainment we have today, women made up certain parts of domestic life. And a lot of it was to entertain and educate the child. And so in the womb, it all starts. A lot of the paranormal all starts while the child's in the womb. And that is because the child's first sound that they understand and they connect with is the mother's heartbeat. And the heartbeat of the mother is the rhythm of everything else. So the child, the first sounds, the first understanding is the heartbeat. The second will be the sound of the lungs. The third will be the rushing of the fluid around it, the embryonic fluid around the womb. Everything inside the body is making a sound, but it's harmonizing with the heart. So the embryo already is getting an idea of rhythm and of security. Because why? It's warm, it's wet, they're getting oxygen, they're getting nutrients, they're creating stem cells. And the child immediately is in an environment that is dense. It's very dense and it's watery, and everything passes through it. Not only the emotions of the mother, but the heartbeat, the breathing and everything is compiled in there. Now, when the child is born, this is part of their subconscious. It's all in their subconscious. So when we go into tribes, let's say Native American tribes or African tribes, the first thing they pull out is a big drum. And then they start beating this drum. What is the beat that they're using?
The heartbeat. The
heartbeat of their mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens after that? They keep drumming in this biotone drum, and then all of a sudden they start going through different levels of consciousness. They call it the powwow or whatever, and it can be drug induced or whatever, but a lot of it is coming from the beat of the drum. And then it goes back and forth. They beat the drum to recognize the mother, okay, and they also beat the drum to honor their mother. But the mother has changed into being Gaia, the earth. And so when they start beating the drum, they start to pray or manifest. And then all of a sudden, what happens next is they get into a rhythm of the heartbeat. They all do. All of the people around the drum reach that same rhythm. They get into that same alpha wave setting. All right. And so they're all going back into their subconscious to the time that they were in the womb of the mother.
Wow.
That's
I
beautiful.
can feel that.
See,
I can hear that. Understand
okay.
that. I see where it's going.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now they've got this thing now. I don't know if they still sell it or not, but I remember back a few years ago, this was really popular. And what pregnant women would do is would take a small radio or these headsets, these big headsets. They would put them on their womb, and so the child would listen to the symphonic music like Mozart and Beethoven and whatever, and they would actually see the child react. You know, they would take a fluoroscope or something, and they would see the child actually react to the music. Now, what's so amazing about this? What is so amazing that the neuroplasticity that's in the embryo, in the small embryo, is already changing. The sounds of the heart, the sounds of the body are changing the way the brain functions. And the more stimulation it gets via the mother singing or humming, or via her heartbeat, the more its brain starts to change. And it becomes equally balanced already before it's even born. So the neuroplasticity in the baby is now relating directly to its environment. It's absorbing information, and it's absorbing it into the subconscious. Okay, so when the baby is born, the mother, will cuddle it and sing to it, and the baby will smell the pheromones from the mother, and also get the warmth and security from the cuddling, from rocking the baby, and that's all to put it back into the womb. That's for the subconscious to recognize it, and it's going back into the womb. Okay, and so you'll see a lot of children play with their mother on the floor, but then they end up putting their ear right on top of the mother's heart, or right next to the heart, and they'll start listening to that heartbeat, because that is their source of life. That's their subconscious. So we've evolved. Okay, it's Mother Earth, Father Sky. That's panspermia. Okay, and we just extrapolate everything from being born. That 9 months of breathing liquid into breathing oxygen, and all of that is affecting the way we think immediately when we're born. So the mother has a great influence, not only psychologically, not only environmentally, but also spiritually. So after the child's born, they coddle it, they protect it. It knows that it's being nurtured. It knows that it's safe. And it will reflect this the rest of its life. Because we all want to be what? Safe and sound. We want to be safe and sound. Okay. And what that means is to be nurtured, to be mothered in a strange way. Okay.
So in other words, it's very, very important, even a mother unknowingly, what her behaviors are, and how she even treats her own body during pregnancy in order to nurture that baby that's receiving.
Yes. Okay. Now this doesn't only happen with humans; it happens with other mammals as well. Look at cats. Cats will be with their young, and they'll start to purr. They do this purring to relax everything, put everything into relax mode. They're kittens, everything else. And you can take a pet, and you can, a cat, and you can be its mother, more or less, and it will start to purr. It will feel relaxed, and it'll start to purr. And it's the same thing. It's the same type of extrapolation of security. And then that's what we're all after. So what we're chasing is the beginning of life. We're all chasing it. We're all chasing it.
When you give birth to a child and you're unable to hold that child because of sickness and there's issues, they have that issue throughout their life looking for that.
That's right. Postpartum depression.
An anxious thing.
Yeah, postpartum depression is so real because it is such a drain on all of your electrolytes.
The chemicals are missing.
Your adrenaline, your estrogen, everything starts to get out of whack right after the baby's born. And then so it's a very big struggle. Even during baby's birth, the woman takes on more pain than the human body should really be allowed. So the maximum pain a person can really take is like 47, 47, they have a name for it, but it's like 47. Well, during childbirth, it's like 56 to 59. So it's like taking most of your bones in your body and fracturing them all at the same time. It's like being in a car accident. That's how much pain there is in giving birth. Okay. So, but after the birth, the child, and as is only with humans, we're so dumb that we can't stand up. We can't defend ourselves. We can't do anything until we're probably about 30. So the human race is really slow. And I've seen horses be born and cattle be born and giraffes be born and everything. And lo and behold, they're like standing up in the first 5 minutes. I mean, they're like playing poker and smoking cigarettes. We take years to cognitively develop everything. What we see and understand, how am I moving this hand? How am I seeing the world? All those perspectives come with the idea of developing and the nurturing that we have. So that is why it's so important to nurture a child between the time it's born to the first 5 years, because that is the way it retains all of its environmental standards. So whatever you say, the child's going to absorb and it's going to repeat. It's going to be a parrot of the situation or a reflection of the situation. So there's a time in that first 5 years where you need to sit down and really be careful with that child, because he is looking for a safe environment and a nurturing environment so he can stand alone or individualized when he gets older.
And a consistent environment also. This is good stuff. This is so important. I'm sorry, please keep going.
Oh, no. Anyway, let me see.
I'm sorry.
No, I just want to check my notes here real quick to make sure. Okay, so the contact of holding the baby, of coddling the baby, is very important for pheromones and endorphins. When you hold that child, when you hug somebody, if I just come over and just hug you, your brain waves and your endorphins are going to change immediately. The biochemistry of that hug is just tremendous. It's like taking a drug. A lot of this is endorphin based, and it's kind of like drug based. And to the child, it just goes automatically to the brain, just automatically absorbed to the brain. So everything that we are looking at, every society that we look at, is going back to the mother and the subconscious of being born. And that's what we want to do. In religion, we're reborn. Okay. Jesus talked about being reborn. Okay. Why? So that we can feel the security and the cognitive value of humanity.
And being loved.
That's what this is all about, is being
feeling
loved.
that connection, that heartbeat. And that's what I tell everybody. We're all connected by this heartbeat that we just don't even see that is there. That's how consciousness is in that heartbeat. That's what everything is connected to.
Now, your heart field I'm not going to say chakra, but I could say chakra. Your heart field, your biofield of the heart goes out about 3 feet. Okay, from you. So when you pull in a child, it can feel your heart immediately. Just like if I hugged you, you would know where I'm at. You could feel it. You could feel it. Okay, and it's the same thing with the child. And I often make a comment, and I mean this pretty seriously, is that you can tell somebody who hasn't been hugged or loved enough as a child is because when they grow up, they're just bullies, self-centered. It's all about me. I don't care about anybody else, and you can see that in their child rearing. And a lot of, back in the day, yuppies, we say a lot of yuppies wanted their kids to be little adults. So they would take them to private school. They would put a tie on them. They'd take them, say, "Oh, you're my little man. You're my little woman." And they had this idea that they would just be normal adults in just little bodies. When that's not it at all. They're still trying to relate to their environment. Okay, they're still trying to reach out and grab that nurturing value, and that's what shopping addiction is all about. That's what chocolate addiction is all about. That's what drinking is all about. It's because you want to change those endorphins again to make you feel good, And so the addiction part of the brain comes into play when you're not fully developed in the nurturing process. And then that is where we fail, because I'm talking about me as well. We all have a failing somewhere, because why we have careers and jobs, and we've got, the weather to watch and the news to be updated on, and stock market and everything else. So we don't really have the time. So we give our kids a pacifier, and they are pacified, whether it be something in their mouth, whether it be a video game, whether it be whatever, it becomes a pacifier so that we can get on with our lives. But then we're deficient in their mental development, the cognitive and mental development, because the reality of cyber, of video games and things like that, are just fantasy. It's just fantasy. And it just fuels their delta waves. It just fuels their fantasy waves, but it does not make them a real person or a normal person. Because they're still looking for that satisfaction.
It leaves that disconnect.
Bingo, the disconnect. And so no matter what we do in the paranormal, we still need our mother's song, our mother's whisper. Now there's penguins in Antarctica that they sing. That's how they get their mate, is by singing to each other. And through that song, they connect. I don't know, it's like opera, I guess, and they say that if women respond to a man singer, a tenor, let's say, and men respond to a women song singer, and you can look at Taylor Swift, she's awesome, and everyone likes her, and that's how men are attracted to that. Same as with women are attracted to Elvis and whoever else is out there. This is.
I'm sorry. Does that have to do with like the electrosimplex and the oedipus-simplex? Does that have anything to do with that?
Yes. Okay. And then the other thing is that the part of the brain that we really need to look at is by the nurturing. Okay, and that is the frontal lobes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is right up here. Okay, now what we're seeing with children today, because they have ADHD or they have anxiety or whatever,
they're shrunk.
Their frontal lobes have not fully developed.
They're small. Mm-hmm.
And you have to sit there and work with that child longer because it's a slower developing thing. And men, it's very, very slow. Okay. So what we're looking at is the more you nurture your child, and you're not making a pansy or a mama's boy, with this, what you're doing is just providing an environment for the brain and consciousness to develop correctly, slowly. if I took like I said, if I took a little baby and threw it to the wolves, it'd be a feral child, but but the wolves would adopt it and it would emulate the wolves. It creates that pattern. Mm-hmm. So that pattern is developed.
So that's more of a nature versus a nurture. Exactly.
So the more they're nurtured, less nature has to do with it. The brain comes into view. The hormones, reactivate. And again, with all this, you build your immune system, you build your stem cell capacity, you build white blood cells, you build red blood cells, all from this nurturing environment. Okay. And when you're nurtured enough in the right ways, sort of, you can then stand on your own. You can stand alone on your own. And that is something that the younger generations don't understand because their parents are just too busy. It's just way too busy.
They had to be to afford everything to keep going. And some had 2 or 3 jobs.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Raised by society that
Yeah, I'm not pointing my finger at anything. I'm just showing you that the brain develops.
Yeah, I'm just explaining it a little more.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't blame anybody. Yeah, and I don't blame anybody. The whole thing is that if you take a young child, female, and put her with a non-family, non-sibling, non-family male, her estrogen just goes through the roof and she starts to mature a lot faster. And I can take a male child and put him with a female that's not a sibling or part of the family, and his testosterone increases almost automatically just by being in the same presence of the opposite sex. So this also goes into, again, the paranormal, because why is so sensitive about being in a high school, let's say, sitting around by other students, or college, or being in an elevator, that some people, you will attract your attention and other people won't. And
that's true.
And then I have this very wise friend of mine, and she goes, Mike, every man wants to marry their mother. So they're looking for attributes that remind them of their mother. And you wouldn't believe how true that really is.
That really is. I've said that. I've joked with people about that.
And then you have females looking for their fathers. They want to marry someone like their father. Mm-hmm. And that's just like so subconscious in our society. And that's how we rate who we are going to be with.
And the scary thing is that doesn't mean that who you want to marry is good for you. It's what you're used to.
Right.
Even if it's painful, you want to recreate that.
Even if it's painful, that's the love that they know, no matter which parent, how they were.
I'm sorry. How does that work when you have 2 parents of the same sex?
Well, it gets a little more difficult, but the idea is the nurturing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if they are nurtured, even if they're the same sex, you're going to have the dominant, the alpha, and then you'll have the secondary.
That's true.
The secondary is normally the nurturer. Mm-hmm. Okay. The alpha is going to go out, and it's all about,
making the money,
being in the limelight, all that. And they're not going to have time, because of the alpha state of the mind. They're not going to deal with children. They're not going to deal with repairing their own car. They're not going to deal with ironing their own clothes. They're going to have somebody else do that. Well, they go beyond that, those rudimentary tasks, and be that alpha. I got to get that promotion. I got to get that pay. I've got to get blah, blah, blah. And I got to fill that into my life so I can have what we call sustainable life. But that's all because we didn't get nurtured as a child to understand what life is. Is life all of these things that we can collect that we're never satisfied with? Or is it just collecting a few items and being happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
The more complete you are in the paranormal, the more complete you are psychologically, spiritually, physically, the less you really need, the less you really want. But if you're not nurtured, if you're the secondary and you nurture that child, you don't want them little adults. You want them to learn to expand their mind later.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to give them the security to learn, security to be themselves, security to express themselves. And then that is how we develop individuals, by giving them the springboard, the nurturing springboard to launch. So let's go back. Okay, we're in America. We're all Americans. Well, I hope. I vote. You know, I'm an American. I vote. You know, so we don't look at America. We look at other civilizations. Look at the Native Americans. Look at the Africans in Africa. They are clan-oriented, family-based. And what does it say? It takes a village to raise a child. And the village has to get involved into that child's life. Everyone is there to help that child grow up.
Be successful too.
Be successful. Yeah. Exactly. But in America, we're not tribal anymore. We don't have clans. So we're all individuals being forced to create individuals. And then that rips away the things that we don't find important, which those emotional support, that emotional support is the most important thing that we can ever possibly imagine. Right. So what you have in the paranormal, which is paramount and fundamental in all near-death experiences, is the state of love, how they felt so loved when they were on the other side. I just, you know, it just, the love just radiates, and they just say they're home. You know, they want to talk to the creator. They want to talk to God. You know, they want to talk to Jesus, and they say, man, I'm home. I don't want to go back. Oh, Jesus goes, no, you're going back. You know, or an angel will show up and go, you're going back. And you go, and they go, no, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Because why?
Again.
It is the energy of love that compels us to stay.
Yep. That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
So it really does.
We should be exuding, you know, exuding love on everything. Okay, but we don't, because we're individualized. We've been taught that individuals are more important than a village. You know, and I say no, we're not as important. We are important, but we're not as important. We need to change the fundamentals, the way we look, and to say, am I raising a small adult, or am I raising a child that needs more education to be involved with his surroundings? And you can see this. Parents go out and buy all these intellectual toys, and they'll come home, and the kids will look at them and just go, I don't, you know, and they throw them away, and they play with a box. Because the box is cool. That's on their level.
You can do something.
That's right. You don't need these Einstein toys that, you know, you put together in 3D models or magnetic whatever. And no, all you need is just be on their level. Give them what they need at that level, and then just walk them through. Okay? So everyone, just to wrap this kind of up, but everyone in the paranormal is looking for one thing. That's not ghosts. That's not consciousness. They're looking for love.
Love.
Love. Now,
you know, a lot of times too, with parents, they have a tendency when they're in the nurturing stage to try to rear the child to be extensions of themselves, and also to meet things in the child to meet things in their life that the parent was unable to meet in theirs. And they put that expectation in there. And also there's a lot of times, you know, people get their egos in there too. And children watch everything you do. It is so important that you act, you know, you walk your talk.
Yeah. Childs don't have egos. They don't know how to lie. They don't have
That's right.
There's a lot of things the child doesn't know how to do. They have to be taught.
Yes.
Smiling
And they
is the
watch
first
what
thing they learn.
they watch what the adults do. If the
That's right.
adults, you know, if they berate people, that's what the kids are going to do. If
Absolutely.
they're hard workers, that's how the kids are going to be. We have a question from Kimberly Horn, which I'm kind of interested in.
I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. What
causes
the
penial cysts? I have penial cysts, yet my abilities are active, but I also grew up with a good family nurturing.
Yeah. Well, okay. That is biological. You know, that is because of calcium in the pineal gland. All of our pineal glands will calcify as we grow older. There's not much we can do to stop it.
And they're usually benign. So
yeah, normally they're benign. But the deal is that when you have an MRI or an X-ray and they do your brain, they look for that calcified white dot in the middle of your brain, and that's where they know the pineal gland is. But that's because of our diet and the toxins and poisons that we eat. Normally, it would never calcify. And decalcifying it is incredibly difficult, almost impossible. So the older we get, sometimes we start losing our, your female intuition because it's calcifying. But then sometime later, you start getting it back.
Let's see. So don't you think that there's a correlation between trauma and activating their abilities? Yeah. For example, for me, good nurturing, but at 15, trauma and an NED experience triggered mine. So do you think that there's a correlation between the trauma and the activating of our abilities?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can go into two different ways. Nurturing can get you a long way to leveling out your consciousness, to level out your brain wave function. But when a trauma hits, whether it's physical or environmental, the body reacts exactly the same way. If I get hit by a baseball or a car accident, it's the same way as having a mental trauma of something that I can't deal with. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about post-traumatic stress and how they're able to go into they hypnotize a person, go into post-traumatic stress and be able to get rid of it through hypnosis.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Wow, it's amazing. It's amazing. And she says in 6 days, I can get rid of the whole thing. You don't need to see a therapist for 10 years. You just go to her and then she'll take care of it. So there are cutting edge, revolutionary things that are happening in individuals' offices that are cutting edge back into the subconscious, getting to the source of that trauma. Now, other people say, well, I can have a past life experience and I can find the source of that trauma. Well, yes, you can. But why did that trauma come to you in this lifetime in the first place? It was something for you to deal with.
To learn.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Modern medicine is trying to use a pill to correct the flow of energy in your body. Okay, so look at your body, and this is a diagram behind it. That's your brain. Your brainwave functions right here. This is a diagram behind me, and that energy is constantly moving and constantly in flux, constantly getting data, constantly retrieving data, and storing data. Okay, so if I give you a pill for that, it's going to do very limited things. Okay, alkali water could probably solve a lot of headaches. Getting your body back to the time that it was born. And again, when a baby is born, what does it smell like?
Oh, I love the smell of babies.
It smells like salt. It's salt. It's salt because it's been in a salt
incubated
solution.
Salt.
That's right. Right. So when they're born, they just smell so fresh and so clean. And it's all because of the salt. Okay. Well, what do we do when we grow old? Well, we're drinking a beer. We're having a vodka martini.
They get stinky.
We're drinking a Coke. And then you go, oh, man, I stink. It's like, got to get some dial on that. But anyway,
right?
And it's because we're pouring all those chemicals into our body, and it's
Mm-hmm.
got to go somewhere. So it's going to come out in our sweat, going to come out in our urine.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's going to come out somewhere. But that's the furthest thing from our natural state of organism. So our natural state of organism is our pH balance in our blood, our calcium, in our bodies, the exercise we get, the oxygen, how it's translated. That's all biochemical. Okay. But again, we're going to get back to this, that the subconscious controls 90% of you.
Mm-hmm.
It controls it. So if you want to alter a program in your mind, like post-traumatic stress or something, a trauma, you have to go into the subconscious and then rewrite that program so it either goes away or you can deal with it.
Yes,
And then
absolutely.
that puts you back on equilibrium. So everyone in the paranormal is looking for two things. They're looking for love, okay, from that energy, and they're looking for security and balance. That's right. Security and balance.
Kind of like answers from that, you know.
That's right.
Like, is my loved one really on the other side? You know,
exactly.
Is that really?
Yeah. And then because we're human, mortal beings, we feel so isolated. And you'll see these older women, and they'll come across a baby, you know, new baby in the family, and man, they want to go over there and just hug that baby and, you know, just cuddle that baby and say, oh, look at that. And then they look at that baby because they see the future, the life of that baby being so pure and innocent, and then growing up, when they should know, from me, that they are the same way. They have the same energy. They have the same love. They have the same nurturing capability. They are life. They are life incarnate. And we should never doubt that that is incredibly powerful.
It is, you know, and even with children too, when they start walking, they start to feel that separateness. So they a lot of times have that separation anxiety at that time.
That's right.
You know, and it is important for parents to nurture that, not to shove it away. You need to give them every opportunity to have their time to get comfortable with that. Those ages are so important for even developing coping skills that are important for life and dealing with things later on. Like Dr. Lynch said, you know, we're putting tools in our toolbox in our subconscious. And if you don't have what you need and it reopens as an adult, it's going to leave you a little short. So
that is
definitely.
Correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Now, I'm not putting all the weight on the women. I'm not putting all the weight on the women. Men need to get involved too. Men need to get out there, wrestle with their kids, you know, play with their kids, and teach them.
Say, I love you.
That's right. I love you.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of you. You're going to be great. You know, you're going to be great things. Not put a baseball bat in their hand and then throw them out in the little league team and say, be a man.
Yes.
Let them have emotions.
That child has not the emotional capacity, not the environmental capacity to understand what being a man is.
Yes. And it's also okay for little boys and little girls to get in touch with their feminine and masculine side. You know, they're going to be fathers one day. So if your little boy wants to hold a baby doll, you know, because he's going to see you holding a baby doll and cook and clean, see mom do it. You know, these things are all important to nurture too. I had my son in a toy store one time, and he had saved up his allowance, and he wanted to buy one of those. I'm a single mom, so he wanted to buy one of those vacuum cleaners with the little things that would float up in the air when you put the battery in it. And we were standing in the aisle, and a young boy came in, and the father came in behind him. The little boy went to touch a baby doll, and the father said, no, these are girls' toys. We need to go in the other aisle. And my son immediately stepped away from the vacuum cleaner, and he looked at me and he said, Mommy, are these toys all just for girls? And I said, well, do you think they're all for girls? And he says, no. And I said, well, he says, but that man said they're all for girls. I said, well, I think that's a little silly, don't you think? And he says, yeah. So he proudly picked up the vacuum cleaner and went and paid for it with his money, and we went home. So,
right. Make those, let them find their own identity. And you are either, okay, this is either positive or it's negative. And if it's sexist, which I'm going to say, men have hammers and women have knitting needles. Okay. It's not sexist. Men can knit and women can use a hammer. You know, this is just paradigm shifting, ideas that we need to overcome. I grew up in a very, male female centric world. So men didn't do what women did. Women didn't do what men did. We were, they were totally different parts of the page. But the idea was that doesn't mean anything. They can still do it. Chefs are men who cook.
Yes.
Butlers are men who clean.
Mm-hmm.
And so it means nothing. It means nothing. It means nothing. Let me just say this. Now, when we all
Dr. Lynch, I need to talk to you about what you just said about writing my post-traumatic stress. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. There are some social and psychologists, social workers and psychologists that have now made some very good inroads in post-traumatic stress. And the American Medical Association does not even give them the time of day because there's not a drug involved. Okay.
Can't make the money.
That's right. They can't make the money.
Yeah.
So what the deal is that they sit down with the client and then they say, okay, even though they can write prescriptions, that's not the point. That's not the issue. The issue is getting the client well. And that is the issue. So a lot of these guys are concierge, you might say concierge doctors, and they'll come in and maybe in 4 or 5 sessions or 6 sessions, that post-traumatic stress is over. If you go to a normal psychologist, and even though he can prescribe drugs, he's going to see you maybe for 10 years. So there's a post-traumatic therapy gap that we have in the way that we're dealing with these problems. So some are very progressive, and I know a couple, and some are not. They're traditional.
Yes.
And we need more people in the mental health field, unbelievably.
They're treating the way that they're treating schizophrenia too.
Putting drugs, just don't. There's something that it's stemming from that needs to be dealt with instead of just putting a Band-Aid on it. You need to get to the source of why it's happening.
Now, remember, okay, we live in a simulated world, but our consciousness is a program. It is a program. And by nurturing, that's the program. That's a program that we digest immediately. That's the first thing. You'll say something like, how well we're programmed is you'll talk to someone and they say, my mom's cooking is the best cooking I've ever had. Okay. They always say that. When they get out in the world and they go to Chef Andre and they have French cuisine for the first time, they'd say, wow, this is really good. It's not like my mom's, but it's not bad. They're always a comparison. And the reason why their mother's cooking is so good is because she's cooking it out of love.
Yes.
And that goes into the food.
Yes.
And so when you are eating that food, you're eating love. Mm-hmm. That's the secret ingredient to all cooking is love.
It is.
And
herbal witch.
And I've got doctors who have done water experiments.
I've talked about that.
Yeah. There's water, if there's water in that food, like in your mashed potatoes, or there's water in your gravy or whatever you're drinking or whatever. And if you pray over that, that corrects itself so that it's not toxic and you can eat that. And so if your mother is not over your skillet there, and then, soul food, that's exactly it.
Absolutely.
Because that's exactly the way they look at it. You're eating food for your soul. And there was that cooking book for the soul. What was that book that came out? Chicken Soup for the Soul or something like that?
Yes.
I was like, awesome. Why do they even name it that way? Because that's what your mom would give you when you were sick.
Yes.
It's not chicken soup. It was the love in that chicken soup that made you healthy. Because it's energy. It's all energy. Okay. Getting back to I'll wrap this up so we can move on to something else. What can have a negative effect is yelling and screaming at the child. That can have just as much more negative effect as if you were beating the child.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So that needs to be kind of reeled in. We can be upset, but we're the adult. We should be able to understand if I scream at this child or dog or cat, it will it will go through trauma. It'll be totally frustrated.
Also,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Also, how they see you relate to people that they love and care about. It's also screaming
How
at
you
them. But
feel
if they
about 'em.
see a husband screaming at a wife or another child or the neighbor or the dog, sometimes, you know, that even does, I think it even does more damage than even being yelled at themselves a lot of times, although all of it's damaging. So
yeah, I'm not saying not voice your opinion, but I'm saying if you're the adult, well, then you should monitor the effect it's going to have on that child.
Exactly.
Okay.
Take it in another room.
Yeah. So anyway, I sent you a link to a YouTube video that says try listening to this for 15 minutes. It has an immediate effect to open the third eye, help you.
It does.
Okay.
Right. It's like an hour long, but you only have to list 15 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I listen to it. I'm on the computer a lot, so I listen to this all the time. And this sounds to me like my mother's humming or singing.
Relaxing.
And what is the first thing that doctors tell you? And this is, people don't even understand it. They say, whistle while you work. Sing a song while you work. Play it in your head if you have to. But humming and singing reduces the stress on your body automatically. Not only you're getting oxygen and endorphins, you're getting your mind out of the situation that you're in. So like when I'm on the computer and I've got tons of stuff I'm reading, journals and research papers and I try to keep up with all these guys. But in the background, because they are so mind-numbingly boring, I turn this on. Maybe you can put that in the show notes or something, but I turn this on and I just have it in the background. I just listen to it. I mean, I'm watching Perry Mason and I listen to this, and
wonderful.
It's just this amazing relaxing. So I can relax and focus on my job because I have this tone in the background. I'll talk about, opening the third eye, keeping it open. You really have to, it's all vibration. So you have to really adjust your diet, reduce the calcium carbonate, the calcium that's in your brain, and also listen to music because it will have. Now, if I took this music and I put on like little electrodes and put it up to my brain, put it on my skull, it would probably have 10 times the effect. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people say, well, you get it. We'll put this in some earbuds or headphones, and you can just listen to it and meditate or whatever. And I'm sitting there going, no, if you're tone deaf, this may not work. So if you take that and put it, like on your jaw, you can put it on your jaw or put it right up here in your temple. It will go through and will have the best effect in those cases because the information goes directly into the cells of the body, into the water conduits of the brain, and it's an amazing situation. The fluid in the brain, the fluid in your spinal cord, your spinal fluid is basically seawater.
It just kind of relax and flows while you're listening to it. You feel like you're almost like floating in the river. That's how I felt when I was listening to it, like I was floating in the river.
Now, Lynn said she listened to it and she actually slipped into another timeline and thought her daughter was her son or something like that.
Yes. I actually went into a different timeline. I was on a wharf where there were boats, and there was a little boy at the end of the wharf. He had on the little typical newspaper cap and the little shorter legged pants. And I approached him. When he turned his face, it was my youngest daughter's face. And I'm like, Ashley, what are you doing here? And it was a little boy. And I, picked him up and started walking back to this big, beautiful house. So I'm like, well, it did. It took me into a whole different, time.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we're overlooking the simple nurturing of the mother. We've downplayed it, saying it's not necessary. That's not important to the development and psychology.
It's very important.
But it's incredibly important. It's the most important thing. So I just feel that our society, in the rush to be wealthy, be sustainable, in the society, I think is taking away the actual items, tools that we need to be adults and be ourselves.
Yeah. You know,
I
I
mean,
live.
just,
Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I live here in South Carolina, and the South Carolinians have a very, very bad habit of holding their baby that's 6 months old to a year old, and you say, "Oh, what a beautiful child! Oh, they're rotten. They're just
Oh, I
rotten."
hate that.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that
and I'm
makes me
like,
so mad.
I mean, and they think that it's, and I'm like, oh my God, you know. And I try to then, you know, say, "Oh, beautiful, you know, child," and kind of walk away, but they're just rotten, you know. And they tell them that to their face
Hold
all
up,
the time.
Mira.
You're
Repeat that.
rotten.
Repeat
Yeah.
that. Hold up, Mira. Repeat
And I just
that.
so badly want to say to them, you know, whatever you're telling this child, you're going to create and reap what you sow.
Mhm.
So, you know, you need to tell him that he's a rocket scientist if you want to be taking care of as old people, and
That's
not
right.
have to go to the place that smells like pee, you know.
You don't
Just
have
literally.
to, yeah, you don't have to embellish everything, but you just have to be truthful with them. Just be truthful and just say, you know, where does the love come from? It comes from the heart, the self, out to everyone else. And so this is where my friend name is Renee Nagel. Renee Nagel, you can find her on Facebook, and she has a method, a technique. Yeah, Renee Nagel, and she'd be a great person to interview. She has a technique to stop post-traumatic stress. She has a technique. Now, the other technique of post-traumatic stress is hooking you up to electroshock machine, and they use it for depression for a lot. And they just shock your brain. Well, they don't need to do that anymore. I mean, that was stupid to begin with. It did help, but it was just totally messing with the electrolytes in your brain and the byproducts to the point where you would just get amnesia and forget that you were depressed. You had no idea. So instead of treating the depression, they were just like, okay, we'll do a blanket shotgun, you know, whatever, and then that will do it. But her name is Renee Nagel, and she's on Facebook, and she is writing a book now on her techniques for post-traumatic stress therapy. And she says she can cure.
Can we spell her name for people? Because sometimes people spell Renee, and is Nagel Nagel or L-E?
E-L. I think it's L-E. Yeah,
L-E.
I think it's
Okay.
Nagle, and it's Renee is Renae, something like
A-E? Okay, yeah, that's different. Okay.
something like that.
Got
A
it.
little different. Just go into Google, not Google search, but Facebook search under Renee Nagel, and and she's quite a fascinating person. Now, of course, again, we're all different. Our intelligences, our consciousnesses are slightly different, but the capacity is there. So I'm not saying anything that's so hard or difficult that you have to join a program and you have to do whatever. I'm just saying no. I'm just saying it should be natural and inherent in you to nurture someone till they reach an age where they can sustain themselves. They can sustain. And again, a lot of people talk to me. I mean, a lot of people talk to me, and they're talking like quantum this and quantum that. It's like, you don't even have a clue on quantum science, because if you do, you don't know quantum. And that's the other thing too, is that it's all energy. Quantum state is just an energy form, energy signature, and that can be manipulated just by looking at it. So when you do the triple split or the double split experiment, by looking at it, we alter the conclusion of the experiment. And all science is observational science. So quantum relates to energy, vibrational energy of the mind consciousness, body consciousness. You see what I'm saying? So if you believe that, then your energy, even on the quantum state, should be nothing but love. No doubt. There's no doubt in my mind. It has to be, because in every near-death experience, and I'll now get to tachyons, and every tachyon chamber that you go to, when you come back out of it, you are loved. You are loved. And post-traumatic stress for 25 years. Yeah, because people don't know how to cure it properly. And It's the subconscious that can cure it. It's the rearranging of that program in the subconscious that created it in the first place. So find Renee Nagel, tell them that I sent you, you know, and so that's the idea. What was this?
Yeah.
The spirit communication.
We will definitely be reaching out to her as well. Let's see, Reggie, my spirit communication relies on my love for them. He has a huge heart. Just as a human child spirit within relies on the human parents, loving spirit within shown to that mind. He has such a pure heart when he goes in, and that's why the spirits love him.
Yeah.
They just talk. Hi, Reggie. Hi, Reggie. That's all you get. Hi, Reggie.
It comes from his heart. Whoops, sorry.
Because why? Even on the other side, you have guides. And these guides will come and say, okay, well, I'm the great grandfather of Michael, you know, and God is love. Yeah. And so they'll say, I'll be his guide. You know, you'll have a relative, maybe just grandparents or whatever, that have crossed over, and they come back because they want you to be loved and nurtured while you're in this form. And so if guides didn't exist, a lot of psychics would exist. You know, a lot of people would have a very bad day, you know, and I always make the joke, you know, we have parking angels, we have fashion angels, we have angels for everything, coffee angels, you know, and I say, get them off the bench and get them in the game, man. Use those angels, you know, find what you need to do to make the world a better place. And it all comes,
absolutely.
Again, I don't care if you're 80 years old or if you're 2 years old, you know what love is and you know what nurturing is automatically.
And it doesn't mean enabling.
That's right. No, I'm not enabling. They just
love is when you allow someone to be who they are, not innate, you know, to let them learn their own lessons.
When we were in computer science, we'd say junk in or crap in and crap out in a computer, because if you put in bad information, it's going to regurgitate that information. Well, that's the thing with a child. You know, hurt people, and you don't want them hurt. You want them to grow.
Let it stop with you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Stop.
Right. Overcome it. Yeah.
And also
remember, it's not forever.
All right.
And also to set healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Also, you know, so that they can be safe within.
You know, we have predatorial psychologies. You know, we have narcissists. We have.
I have an ex-narcissist.
Yeah, we
know a lot. Too many to count.
We have a lot of people out there blaming you for them not being wealthy or famous. So,
do you know?
That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, don't fuel a narcissist. Don't fuel someone like this.
Oh my
what
God.
you need to do is just say, you be you, and guess what? I'll be me. You know, and I said, there's a psalm, and it says, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I will feel no evil. And my new saying is, I will walk through the gates of hell, and I'll be love and light, and evil will fear me. And that's exactly the way we need to approach this, because you want the undeveloped evil fear to be gone. Yes. And you want to be able to stand there with the love of the universe, of the creator, is emanate through you.
Absolutely.
That's what it's there for.
Now, don't compare your light to anybody else's. You have your own light.
And be proud of it.
Do not compare, and be proud of who you are. Don't let other people, you know, put shadow on your light. You know,
that's right.
Just
that's
be
right.
you.
Yeah, that's right. It's your life. It's not going to end. You may have 10 other lifetimes. You may be in the afterlife for 1,000 years, and you'll get bored of that, and then you'll want to, you know, experience this roller coaster ride of a reality or whatever. But the point being is that everyone that is in this reality has got to be nurtured. I mean, because Okay, we're not
So
a horse or a cow that can stand up on the first day or in the first 10 minutes of being born. We have to be, for some reason, that
Guided.
is beneficial to our brain, psychology, and body chemistry to be nurtured. And we recognize it immediately. It's like, I see this commercial all the time on television. A tornado hit my house. And we just thank God for that agent, that insurance agent, to be out there and have empathy with us and get our case started. You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole idea, is that, you know, they're enjoying their insurance from somebody that cares about them. You know, they wouldn't be there if that guy didn't care about them. You see what I'm saying?
That's true.
So people go with people who care. You know, and that's all bleeds back to the nurturing. So anyway, in the paranormal, we have drum circles, we have wailing circles, we have the dickery-doo or didgeridoo, we have the didgeridoo, yeah, and
recorders,
that all of
you
that,
also have the
string
bowls.
instruments.
Yeah. There's an ancient I can't think of the name. There was an ancient group of people that went around the Midwest and Mexico, and they were musicians. And Cocopelli or something like that. Cocopelli, they were musicians, a band of musicians. They go from tribe to tribe, and they, you know, like for weddings and celebrations, and they would show up with their instruments and they do this. Now everyone thinks that they're probably extraterrestrials, but no one really know where they came from, and no one knows how they learned their instruments. So they could have been like a traveling circus. They can just be in a band of you know, minstrels, playing and singing. Yeah, Tibetan. Yeah, bowls. Oh yeah, exactly. Okay, if you take now you can buy these Tibetan bowls, and some of them are salt, or some of them are metal. It really is the resonance that really give you
a beautiful sound.
That feeling. That's right, and that sound.
And they vibrate.
They vibrate. Yes, the vibration that relaxes you. Okay, it's Jake from State Farm. Yeah. The whole scheme with Jake is, I care about you, and I'm going to be awake 24/7. Just to, you know, it's like progressive. We're going to live in your front yard. Questions. Yeah, you know, and we'll be there to answer your questions or whatever. And it's like, you know, are you trying to be my friend, Jake, or are you just trying to make money? You know, you don't really know on these commercials anymore, because they want you to say you've got a friend in State Farm, you got a friend in Progressive, you got a friend in blah blah blah, you know. And you don't see this around Ferrari dealers. You know,
I know.
A Rolls Royce dealers come up and they say, you know, if you ask them, you know, how much does that Rolls Royce cost, they go, well, you shouldn't have one. You know, we want to deal with people that come in that have all the, you know, money to waste, money to burn. And so the Ferrari dealer will say, you know, if you ask them how much is that Ferrari, they'll say, oh, well, I can't tell you because you don't deserve it. You know,
you can't afford it.
You can't afford it, so I'm not going to mess with you. Well, that's not being my friend. I mean, you may think you know that's good for business, but that's not being friendly at all. You know,
these things that you know they're drawn to, and a lot of times too. And I just wanted to ask a question about this. You know, sometimes there are people that wallow in the negativity, and they're very attracted to those of us that are, you know, very loving and kind, and sometimes you feel so drained after dealing.
That's a vampire.
You know,
vampire, energy vampire.
And they have to have your energy to make they live on it.
There's a show called What We Do in the Shadows. And I think it's on Hulu, but it's about vampires. And one of them is an energy vampire. And he makes people upset just so he can feed off of that. Okay. And then everybody else is extraterrestrials.
See, speaking of extraterrestrials, your thoughts, are they our guides that we are now able to see? Are they just another species in our lifetime that we are finally accepting?
Yeah, they're a little bit of both. There are other species, and it gets complicated. Okay, I want to put this out there. I've never said this before, and I'll probably get berated for this later. But think of think of you. Think of you, your consciousness. Think of your consciousness, this thing that's behind me. That's you. That's your consciousness. Okay. Now, under certain circumstances, depending on the DNA of the host, like your body, they can go into anything they want. So I have a gray. That gray has died, physically died. The consciousness comes out and is kind of here in the afterlife.
Where are we going?
If they have, if the body has the proper DNA, that consciousness can come back into that body, and that body can look like a Pleiadian, Orion, Arcturian, makes no difference. A Hyperborean makes no difference. If the DNA is there for that consciousness to acclimate with it. What's this?
He was talking about the Kokopelli.
Oh, Kokopelli. Yeah, Kokopelli. That's it. Yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, they were a group.
Is a fertility deity who is, and I'm sorry, I'm squinting here because these letters are small, were venerated by some Native American cultures. Kokopelli presides over both childbirth and agriculture. He is also a trickster god and represents the spirit of music. And again, the love thing also, we forgot about plants and things like that too. They
love music.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. You could. Okay. This is dead back in the 70s. I think the same guy who did the Messages in Water, Emoto, did this. He took Beethoven. Not Beethoven. He took Mozart and Haydn and some other stuff, and he did some plants. The other plants, they did rock and roll, AC/DC. I mean, just really hard stuff. And the plant that got all the AC/DC hard rock was like Quasimodo. It was all bent over and dying. And the other plant grew and had fruit, and it was good. They've got a new thing now that you take a stick and you wrap a copper wire around the stick, and you put one end into the ground or the pot your plant's in, and the other one just up in the air like a little antenna. And that will grow twice as much, twice as big as normal.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I was saying he also did a water test, didn't he? Where it wasn't just the spoken word. He actually took what I love you that was typed and taped it to a glass. And even just those words that weren't verbalized, that it changed the molecular or the design of the water.
When you buy some bottled water, take some bottled water and write on the label in a Sharpie. Get a Sharpie, and I always like to carry them around because they're permanent, And you take take a bottle of water and write "I love you" on it. Just "I love you" or "love water."
That's a great idea.
And just keep doing that, and you'll notice that you're not going to get sick anymore. You will not get sick because why? The love that changed the water is now changing your water. And that's how we absorb it. So if you talk about quantum stuff, if you talk about quantum things, quantum is energy that emanates in us and outside of us. So I can say, I'm sending you my love. And that is true. In the Power of Prayer, the books of Power of Prayer, I think it's by Dorsey or Morris or Dorsey, I forget. But anyway, he did a whole thing. So people in the hospital were being prayed for. They were on a prayer list. And then there was another group of people that were not being prayed for. They had the same surgeries, almost the same sicknesses. And so the people that were being prayed for got better. The people that didn't get prayed for, they just remained the same. And then they made another list and said, here's a group of people we're going to pray for, but not tell them. And guess what? The people that were consistently being prayed for got healthier faster.
I think I figured out, me and Kristen, we joke all the time, Sage and listen to our rock music, clean the house. Yes, but I don't think my brain looks like that because I enjoy rock music. It makes me feel great. Love the frequencies and the vibrations.
It makes you want to dance.
I'm not saying don't listen to it.
I'm just saying
to relieve stress, sometimes you got to go one way or the other. And but the idea is to put the body in the right vibrational frequencies, so
happiness,
it can
love.
heal itself. So it can heal itself. Now, like I said, I don't want you to be in love 24/7. I don't want you to be in hate 24/7, because the body can't handle that. Either way, we have problems. But if we can moderate that, then it becomes an environment of nurture in the nature. Okay,
another thing as well, there's also an author, Danny and Brinkley, and he talks about, he had near-death, he had a couple of near-death experiences, and he talked about the last near-death experience that he had, that when he came back, he was hugging people more, and a couple of people noticed, wow, you've really become a hugger, and he says, I'm not hugging you, I'm hugging me. So that when I get back on the other side, all of those hugs and that feel good that I gave to other people, then I get to feel on the other side. So it's not just an investment here, it's also going to be a rippling effect of an investment on the other side.
When Danyan said, when I go through my afterlife review, he said the first time I noticed I didn't hug anybody. There was like very little physical contact. And he goes, in my next life review, I kind of caught on that I saw everyone that I hugged, and he saw the energy in that hug. And so when I saw him a few years back, he was out there in the lobby, and he was just hugging people. Everyone he could get his hands on, he was hugging. And I just thought, oh man, Danyan, that's a lot of Buddhist stuff. That's a lot of Buddhist stuff. And he goes, no, that's the way the universe works. That's the way the universe works. And we need to be more aware of that. Between Raymond Moody and Danyan Brinkley, that was my first books that I read, or you might say information that I sought, because of the reality of heaven. I was trying to deduce the reality of heaven. And I based a lot of my earlier research on Danyan Brinkley and Raymond Moody. And I had him on my shows. And Danyan would say, you are so lucky because you don't know what your destiny is. You don't know why you're here or your destiny. You said, you are so lucky that that's not there, because after you've died 4 times, then they tell you, and you go, how am I supposed to do that? I'm saying, here we are looking at the entire, we're looking at the entire realm of God. And then you go, how am I supposed to do that? It's like, Danyan, gee, that's the entire realm of heaven and the afterlife. And you are doubting that their ability to work in your miserable little human life. I said, man, shoosh, that would shock me, And that's why COVID is so hard for people emotionally.
The separateness, everybody.
Right. It was hard not being able to hug, not being able to feel
the touch, the physical touch. Yeah.
My grandson was just a baby. We literally, I still watched him, but nobody was allowed around because of my health. I have a lot of autoimmune, but I still watched him. But it was hard, not being able to go anywhere else and do anything else.
And it wasn't just the hugging, having the masks over your face, so you couldn't see the smiling expression of people.
Right.
Well, I found out, this is from my point of view, I found out that the people that were protesting the masks weren't smiling anyway. So
That's true.
Just wear that
they wanted everybody else that way.
They weren't working anyhow.
Just wear that stupid mask, because I don't want to see that sourpuss. I don't want to see that face that you're making every time you're in the grocery store or whatever. Because if you don't like people, then wear a mask, anyway, because I just don't associate with you. If you don't have a smile on your face, because we're in one of the freest countries on the planet, and we should be proud of that, and smile and say hi to your neighbor, I just don't understand people. Why were you protesting something that you weren't happy about anyway?
Right.
So it's like, I wore a mask during COVID.
I wore a mask before COVID.
But
when I went into before COVID ever hit, whenever it was flu season, I wore a mask.
Right.
Just because of my own immune. I did it for myself. I didn't do it for anybody else. I didn't want to get sick during.
Right.
But that was before COVID.
In Japan, they wear masks every winter anyway. Michael Jackson wore masks just transferring from plane to plane, going on concert. So there was nothing really wrong with it. It was just that people didn't think it was their style. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what's not your style. One is COVID is from bat guano. Okay, it's from bat guano. Okay, so how many times have you been in a cave and you've been crawling around in bat guano? Zero. Zero.
But I do have boxes of bat guano because I garden, and it's really good for gardening.
But
it's dangerous.
Yeah,
it's dangerous.
We're not in bat guano every day. I'm not saying it's not dangerous. I'm just saying we're just not in it every day. We live a very antiseptic life style. I mean, we have Lysol and alcohol and Dawn detergent to kill all the bacteria in our house. We live in a very sterile environment. The deal is that it wasn't the PPE that people were wearing that prevented it. It's the T cells. It's your T cells that fight the virus in your body. Well, then all you need to do is make your body resistant to viruses. And how do you do that? Well, you just change the biochemistry, your pH balance of your blood. Just change your pH balance of your blood and love.
That's right.
Get healthy. Love yourself. Love
that is so true.
The nurses
get more to Mother Nature, not all this fake crap they try to sell you.
It was a bioweapon to begin with. So it's like you're just showing us your stupidity again. Not unless you really want to kill everybody on the planet. This would be a way to do it. But they're finding they're tweaking something via CRISPR as a bioweapon. Then they tweak it again to find the antibody or the antigen against that bioweapon. So they have the cure. They have it when they build it, because in the computer, the cure and the virus are almost identical. It's just how much are you going to inject? So some people had to get 2 shots. Some people got 1 shot. Some people got neurological problems from it. Some people became dizzy from it. I mean, everyone had started having side effects because they rushed it. That's right. So who made the most money? And then why are they raising the price
Pfizer
again?
Did.
Right, because the government bought it, and then they changed. Then they jumped it up to $1,200 per vial.
Yep, we got to be careful how we do word some of this, because we've got the Facebook police and the YouTube police that might, banish us. But we are all on the same page with that. And being people that are more of that negative nature, they talk about all of their ailments and all of their stuff all of the time, and it seems to manifest more. And those that are more positive, they don't have as much. I haven't been vaccinated, and I'm a nurse. I have not had COVID. As a matter of fact, I had kidney stones. That's not, that's a whole nother thing, but I haven't had a cold in a very, 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 very long time.
Right.
So, I hope that, that kind of is because of the way that I think.
Right.
And
so 2 things. One, you need lots of oxygen. The other one is your blood, your pH balance needs to be the same as salt water. Why is that? The same as the sea? Because it kills bacteria. And that's who we are. That's our essence, is salt. So if we are dehydrated, and coffee and Cokes and sodas will do that. If you become dehydrated, then immediately.
Alcohol does it too, yeah.
Yeah, you're depleting your salt content.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so what did they think? They made Gatorade and Powerade. Was to put those electrolytes back, Pedialyte. Look at Pedialyte. Pedialyte, if it didn't have all the sugar in it, like Gatorade, didn't have a lot of sugar in it, it'd be great. You should drink that at least once a day instead of a soda, just to put the electrolytes back into your body. There's so much with the balance and regulation of the body and consciousness. There's so much there. One can override the other, but you have to do it by the via road of love. Doctors will tell you flat out, they'll go out and sell you a medication, and they know that medication is going, once it hits the shelf, it's going to have a very limited lifespan because people will take it. It has no effect. They're not going to do it again. So placebos, and there's actually a medical term for a placebo, and that works over 50% of the time with most people.
Tricking your mind.
Whether, it's tricking the subconscious to say that this is a cure. This is a remedy. This is a remedy. It's like taking an aspirin. Taking an aspirin and a glass of wine is identical. They're made by vinegar. They're both made by vinegar. Okay, so aspirin just thins the blood. You might as well just take some apple cider vinegar to thin your blood. You might as well take a half a glass of wine to thin your blood. Do the same thing. It's going to do the same thing. So medicines and a pill do not do anything on a quantum level of vibration. It's just a biochemical stimulant or additive to make your body feel better by eliminating something, probably bacteria, virus, whatever. And then that's how that really works. But to cure it, they don't have a clue. There's not a pill out there.
Self cures a lot of stuff. It takes the infection out of stuff. It breaks down the infections.
Right. I've got, I personally don't have, but there are people down in Brazil right now crawling all over the jungle canopy looking for plants that they can make a medicine out of. And then once they find that, actually they go to the old shamans, the old native shamans who actually grind these plants into a powder and have you take it. It's not all ayahuasca. Some of those plants are really good herbs that really help the body, but they're down there looking for these herbs and they're going to break them apart chemically. And then they're going to put them together in a pill and then sell it to you as the next best thing. No matter what the side effects are, because they don't really care what the side effects are, you're their test subjects. You're the test case. So why would you poo-hoo natural versus pharmaceutical when they all come from the same origin story, from the forest, from the plants? Aspirin comes from vinegar or the yew tree, and vinegar, and goes on from there. I mean, there's so many things. And these guys down in South America, in Brazil, the old witch doctors have all these recipes. Well, it was just a treasure trove for the pharmaceutical industry. Go down there, throw them some beads, find out what's going on. And if we can find the chemical composition for, if you can find the chemical composition for that and we can patent that, gee whiz, we just made $100 billion instantly.
Yes.
Now I can go to Canada. I can go to Canada. Yeah, I can go to Canada and buy the same exact pill for a third of the price.
Or even less than that, yeah.
Or less than that. I can go to Cuba and get it for a nickel. I can go to England and probably get it for free. Yeah, after you hit 65, all your medications are free in England. Plain and simple. So America is getting screwed over because they're sitting there saying it's all about the salt of the earth. That's right. That's right, Jack. Because they're saying, it's R&D. It's research and development. That's why we have to. That's why we have to, charge so much. And it's not really R&D. It's just profiteering off of the
stocks.
And then the FDA sits there and says, "Oh yeah, we can roll back some of the limitations on dyes and other chemicals you put in there as preservatives, and stuff like that." So you're eating the piece of bread; it has more chemicals and preservatives in it than it does nutrition. And that's what's so crazy. There's a guy, he had Crohn's disease. Some type of Crohn's disease, right? And it's in your intestines and your stomach. Anyway, so he went to England. I mean, went to Europe. And he was in France. He was doing this jaunt around Europe, and he was eating bread. And he said he ate for the first time an entire willow bark. Yeah.
Yes.
And ginkgo biloba is also from the bark of the ginkgo tree. Yeah. Beta blockers. Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, he went to Europe and he went all over Europe and he just ate bread, because it was made fresh daily. And in bread, there's only like 3 ingredients. In Europe, there's only 3 ingredients because by the next day, you either had to throw it away or you had to moisten it somehow because it would get hard. Well, anyway, he said he could digest that 24/7. But as soon as he got back to the States, he said he ate a piece of bread and he just his stomach just blew up. And he said he couldn't digest it because it was the preservatives in it. He said if you leave you can leave some bread out for a week and it won't get moldy. It'll just sit there, stare at you. And that's because it's got so many preservatives in it to have a shelf life that it's almost toxic. Twinkies. Yeah, it's almost toxic for anyone to eat it. You know what I'm saying? And look at your cereals and a few other things. I'm just saying.
Everything's got chemicals in it unless you grow it yourself.
Right, right. And I've seen so many people in the last couple of years go back to organic gardening just for simple things, green beans or strawberries and peas or something that you can grow on your own. And
I had a garden up until 2017, and then I started traveling with my husband. So for 3 years, I didn't have any garden. When 2020 happened, I went back home, and my garden exploded. I've been gardening since, and all lettuce, tomato, cucumber, peppers, herbs, and you'd be surprised how much money you make. And when you know what's going into that food and you're giving it the love.
Plus, you're out there in the elements and putting your feet in the ground and you're grounding yourself. So it's
all the negative energy that gets sent my way. I thank everybody that sends it to me because my garden really appreciates it.
Right.
and I want go ahead.
That's where it starts. That's where it starts. Yeah, go ahead.
I want to tell everybody in this room and our guests and everybody, I love you.
Right.
Yes.
Love.
Love.
But anyway, yeah, absolutely. And okay, you were talking about making connection. There was an old movie that was out. A lot of people didn't like it, but it really kind of shocked me at the time. It was called The Postman. The Postman, and the world had gone through some type of collapse. And this one guy, as a con, dressed up like a postman and was delivering mail.
I saw that movie.
Okay. Well, it's really funny because he says that Richard Starkey is the new president of the United States. Well, that's Ringo Starr. But anyway, so the whole thing is that the need, even in a post-apocalyptic world, to connect was so strong that people were writing letters and they were mailing them off, but they didn't know if they were being received or not. And so this one guy takes on this whole thing of being like the postmaster general of the Midwest and puts together an army, you might say, of postmen, and they go out and deliver mail. And I just thought,
until the bad guys showed up.
Yeah, if you take away the internet, if you take away fax machines, telephones, and all that other stuff, we still down deep have a desire, a need to communicate, to reach out and touch people and say, how are you doing? Are you okay? That simple thing. And that's why I said, I told the military one time, I said, if the extraterrestrials did land, and they'd come down off their platform and they're walking up to you, the first thing out of your mouth, this is to the US military, is to say, how can we help? Not pull up your guns and try to kill them, blow them away, just because they're slightly different than us. But if you're in consciousness studies, it's all the same. Your consciousness, their consciousness, it's the same. It's just in a different container. And you'll have grays talking about you as your container. Your container is here. Your consciousness, they talk about consciousness totally different than they do your container. And that is
consciousness. It can be everywhere. Your container's only right here.
So extraterrestrials can put their consciousness in different bodies if the DNA is there. They can slip on a body and slip it off like we change clothes. And their underlying comment is, we're here to help the best we can.
How can we help?
How can we help? And that's what we need to do when there's something that we would suggest that would be foreign. Now, I'm not saying run out there and be, you're hippie dude and say, here, smoke this first, smoke the peace pipe before we actually talk. It's like, we need to come to an existence, a presence to where we're not clawing our way up the ladder anymore. And we should sit down and with whatever we've got and say, can I help? The American Indians never had any prisons.
No, they hugged the ones that had issues. They wanted to know what they're, we love you. These are the good things about you. They build up that.
They didn't have any money until just recently when they took seashells and they made seashells and then put holes in them and they would string them on thing and they would trade seashells. Yeah, it'd be necklaces, seashells. Well, if you look at the ancient Chinese money, it is round and they have a square in the center.
Yes.
So it's almost, and that's how they did. But at the same time, they were happy. They were happy. The American Indian was incredibly happy. Columbus said, if I had 50 soldiers, I could take this entire country over with 50 soldiers because those Indians are so docile and happy that it'd be nothing. Well, of course, you're looking at it like I'm claiming I must control the environment. I must exploit the environment. I must,
and they did,
rape and pillage and rob the environment. And they did. And it's like, why? Aren't you intelligent enough just to leave it alone? Nope. Why do you have to put your boot, your storm boot on the necks or the heads of everything you touch?
And destroy
if we're all consciousness, then guess what? None of this is real. This is just an illusion. A simulated environment. Our consciousness is the only thing that's real. That's it.
Yep.
And that's 90% love.
I mean, it confuses you.
What?
And even then, some people get confused by their own consciousness. Like, is this for real?
That's right.
You have to really get to know yourself. You've got to be firm in your intention and what you believe in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I wanted to ask you the thing about the ETs, the consciousness slipping into bodies that had the correct kind of DNA. Does that reference like when they say somebody has like an out of body experience or they're, dreaming or something, that something can like slip in and take over?
Oh, no. We're not talking about walk-ins. But in a near-death experience, most of the people that leave their body, are instantly telepathic. They're not only hearing the doctors, they think they're hearing the doctors, but actually they're reading their minds. And then they go out into the hallway, they float out into the hallway, and they're reading the minds of their relatives.
That also happens with people that are close to death. They start seeing and they start being able to hear the telepathy as well as the people talking. You can learn so much from a person that's dying because they can hear that.
I know when I was in my near death, I went and visited my son who I had just given birth with. I know I was there with him while I was still in bed. I never left, but I know I visited him. It was an out of body experience. I knew exactly where he was when I first finally did get to go see him.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the other thing too. When we go to sleep, we are closer to death than at any other time.
That's true.
And we go through almost every frequency in our brain in order to go down, but our brain becomes more active. Our brain is almost 4 or 5 times more active while we're asleep than when we're awake. And so our body is virtually null. It just sits there in stasis because there's chemicals that come out that put us there, and they say that's sleep paralysis or whatever. But it's like, you can have sleep. You have sleep paralysis all the time. Every time you sleep, your body, you're not like moving your body around because your body becomes suitably paralyzed because all the energy and everything is in your brain. And a lot of times when people go to sleep, they sleep deep, they'll hear voices and they'll hear their name being called. And it's right there. It's right there. It's you're in that realm automatically. Yeah. Yes. It says in the Bible, the rain falls on the just and the unjust. That's pretty interesting. But that is true. God gives His love to everything and everybody.
That's true.
So the rain will fall on the just and the unjust equally, because that's the way the love works. And once we're able to piece this together, in my twisted mind, then we can sit down to a child
brilliant mind
And then we sit down to a
Brilliant.
child and say, okay, what does this child need? How can I help this child? You know, like dangers and death associated with leaded gas. My God, I grew up with leaded gas. That's why I'm crazy. That's why I am this way.
That's why we're all like this in this
I love,
You got to be
generation.
loving to yourself now. You got to be loving. Say
I
nice
loved,
things.
I loved when my dad filled up the car with gas and that
That
smell.
smell, I
Oh
do.
my
My father
God.
had a gas station, and I remember
It
that
was like,
smell quite well.
whoa, you know, put that thing under my nose, man. I want to smell that.
Yeah.
And the lead was a waste product that they lied about to put into an engine to make it run smoother. And that was a lie. And it probably caused more death and lead poisoning than any other time. The person that created that actually had lead poisoning, got lead poisoning. He also did the one with the Freon. True that NDE can cause poltergeist experience. Yes, yeah, no, yes, and no.
I think it depends on who you are.
It depends on who you are and if the entity is attached to you.
Right.
And then that's the other thing. Okay, in a poltergeistic case or experience, this entity is trying to get your attention. It's an attention seeker, just like a small child throwing his toys around. It's an attention seeker. So it's going to do something to get your attention. And then once you acclimate to it, you just go, oh, that's my poltergeist. Big deal. And then they just leave. They'll leave. They'll go back to wherever they're from, whether they're extraterrestrial or, you know, which some people think they are. But I think they're just noisy spirits, like the term. Leaded gas killed a ridiculous amount of people, and the government knew it. Yeah, and they took decades to order it off the market. That is correct. That is correct. Mm-hmm. Diesel was the same way. Diesel had lead in it, and so did gasoline, jet fuel, and they were flying these jets, you know, over Santa Monica Boulevard. You know, I mean, down in the valley, you know, and I grew up down in the valley, you know, so it was like, yeah, you're poisoning me from the air, you know, it was just, you know, everything in our environment. Okay, Freon is another one. The old Freon that kills a lot of people and our atmosphere.
Animals.
There's a lot of things out there that are totally lethal, and they were devised and created during wartime. And so the governments went and got the crazies and said, we need to develop some weapons. Okay, flamethrowers, gas, poison gas. You name it, they try to invent it for spies as well as soldiers in the field. And then they brought all that technology home. Monsanto was almost out of business in 1904, almost gone until a nerve agent in World War II came available, and they took that to kill bugs with it. And Monsanto is now a global enterprise, like ADA.
Says Jesus, I'm
flavor
sorry.
To life, the truth and love. Yeah, sure. It's not the words. Everyone goes back to that. In the beginning, there was the word, okay, a sound. And a sound created the entire universe. Well, what's good for, yeah, well, yeah, if you pay attention. And a lot of people don't. They're eating that second Papa John's pizza. They're drinking that 6-pack of beer. I mean, sure, it tastes good, but gee whiz, it's going to wreak havoc on your body. I mean, sit down with some yogurt sometime, you know.
Yeah, especially
some
sugars.
Yogurt. Yeah, get rid of the sugar. If you're a real man, you'll eat your yogurt and salad. You know, you're not going to pick up a hammer or not play with the vacuum cleaner. Gee whiz. How narrow-minded can you get? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, okay. Anyway,
everybody is absolutely loving you. We're looking at the comments, and everybody is just enthralled with all that you're saying.
I had it up, but I guess it didn't go through. But anyway, so what I'm saying is, okay, now you think I'm crazy. Now I probably am, but the point being is that the resonance. Now I'm going to do two things with you today. I'm just going to do two things, and then I don't know how much time we got left, but then we'll talk about tachyons.
5 more minutes.
Okay, 5 more minutes. Okay.
No, we've got 15 more minutes, don't we?
Okay.
It's 2 hours.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm late.
Two things. Jesus cured a man, and he was blind, and he was at a fountain asking for money. And then Jesus spit into the ground, put the mud on his eyes. And when it fell off, the man could see. And he goes, I can see. I can see. And his apostles corner him and say, show us how to heal someone, laying on of hands. How can you touch someone or someone touch you and be instantly healed? And so Jesus took them to the side. And this is what it says. He takes them to the sides and shows them how to heal people with their hands. Okay. Now they don't get this power until the Holy Spirit comes down on top of them, and they can then speak all these languages and heal people and things like that. Well, there's a doctor in China, and it's called Qi Zhong. I'll have to send you the link. It's in you can go to YouTube and type in Chinese doctor Qigong, and CHI Gong, QUN or something like that. Qigong. Okay, he's a doctor in China, and he's spent almost his entire life, and he can't sit there. I wish I could remember his name, but he speaks English. He is very good English. Anyway, all he has to do is take your hands, and then relax you. You will fall to the floor in a hypnagogic state. And then he will just rub his hands over the air on top of you, above you. And you will go into a fit. Your body will start to contort and go into a fit. And when you come out of that fit, when he wakes you up and you come out of that, you will be cured instantly. Wow. There was a person with heroin addict. He would do anything for a heroin fix. Went and saw this doctor. In 3 sessions, he was cured. And he said, not only am I cured, I want to be your disciple. I want to go where you go. I want you to teach me how to do this because it cured me. Okay, we have people with arthritis, cancer. Okay, all of these are food byproduct symptoms. But the body, his philosophy is the body can cure itself. It just has to be told what to do subconsciously. And then the body will start to cleanse itself. In medicine, we call it chelation. We call it chelation. Mm-hmm. We try to get heavy elements and we'll give you an IV and do that. When actually the body can do it on its own. It can detox itself on its own. It can correct its own problems. It just has to be told to do it. So this guy lays on of hands and he says, I'll take anybody. I'll take anybody. And so this one guy goes and says, well, I got arthritis really bad in my knees and ankles and I can't walk and do all this other stuff. He goes, okay, no problem. So puts him into this hypnagogic state. He lies down. Next thing you know, he's doing some type of contortion. There's like 4 or 5 different contortions because the body will purify itself in that way. Anyway, so what the deal is, after you do this contortion detox, you'll stand up and your pain will normally be gone. So this is all energy medicine from the aspect of love, of how can I help you? How can I cure you? Okay.
Yeah, please send that link. Definitely.
Yeah. Not give you a pill and say, come back and see me.
Yeah. And then get more pills for the side effects.
You got some more pills for the side effects? Oh yeah, it upset my stomach or whatever. Oh, well, here, take some Tagamin. Take some other stuff.
It's endless.
Yeah, it's endless. Yeah. So they create the problem is created because of something you've eaten. And then they have a drug for that. And then they have a drug for the side effects for that. And then you got some guys walking out of the VA with like 10 vials of drugs. And the doctors still don't have a clue what's wrong with them or how to correct it.
That's
because
so true.
They're not coming from the heart. They're not coming from the love. You know, when was the last time a doctor hugged a patient? Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen it?
Never.
No, even if you're around pediatricians, they don't even touch the child.
No, a lot of times they're afraid of being accused of sexual assault. So they, especially a male to a female, society's killed that one.
So
teachers
now,
can't hug kids either.
Yeah, right. So now you're in the mall with your niece or nephew, and they're young, and they need to be picked up because they're wanting to be picked up. And then you sit over and pick them up, and then people say, well, that's child abuse. It's like, what the hell? You don't even know what child abuse is. That means you never got hugged as a child.
That's right.
Because if you know what the hug feels like, then you want some more of that. That's what Daniel Brinkley says.
Yes.
You know it when I hug you, and when I go through my next past life review, I want to see 1,000 hugs.
That's right. Absolutely.
And I want to feel that. I want to feel that energy back.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway.
Go ahead. We're coming to almost to time. We've got about 8 more minutes to, if there's anything that you want to finalize and say. We also would like for you to mention where people can find you. Absolutely. So
I'm on YouTube and Facebook. And if you have a question or something like that, or want me to send you a link to some of this revolutionary energy medicine, then just contact me. Just shoot it up. And I'm sorry. There's a lot of people like Greg Koss. Greg, I thought I friended him. I thought I befriended him. But anyway, he says he never went through. So it's like, okay, well, I get busy. I get busy. So if it doesn't work out the first time, let me know the second time. But a lot of this stuff is on YouTube, and I have my own channel there, and I produce that stuff. And again, okay, let me just do this real quick. Out in 30 minutes north of Billings, Montana, is a structure called the Sage Wall. The Sage Wall.
I'm gonna write this down.
And then also write down the Giants Playground. The Giants Playground. By the Sage Wall, they found a 2-foot tall crystal. And it's in the Billings, Montana Mineral Museum. And it emanates pure tachyons. The structure of the wall dates back to the Anunnaki. Wow. 440,000 years ago. Okay. The covering on the Sage Wall and the Giants Playground is a piezoelectric crystalline covering, which they covered it. We don't see this again until Sacsayhuaman, till Peru, some parts of Egypt, things like that. But this was the original. So if you're watching Ancient Aliens and picking up breadcrumbs, we need it. Okay, there's 2 things extraterrestrials need, and that is tachyon energy to sustain themselves. All the UFOs have a torus field of tachyon energy that sustains them, that gives them energy, that helps their cells reproduce. It purifies their body. They can't leave home without tachyon energy. So what they did was they created crystals and they put them around their cities to emanate that energy. Hey, Renee. Yeah, there's Renee right there. Hey.
Hi. Yeah.
Hey,
we want to get in touch with you.
We need to get in touch. Yes, get in touch with her right there.
Okay.
Yes, please.
She's got the cure. I wish I had the cure, but I don't have the cure. You can't cure me. You can't.
You've got the magic.
Anyway.
This has all been great.
Definitely.
So anyway, okay, everyone says, oh, you're crazy, Mike. It's like, no. Admiral Byrd flew his plane in Antarctica underground to a crystal city called Antarctica City. It started out as a mining operation, but ends up as a big spacefaring port. Okay. Admiral Byrd says, why is everything covered in crystals? And why is it glowing like this? I was like, well, that's because it just emanates love in the environment and keeps us all healthy. Okay, well, no one believes me on this. But anyway, if you go to Billings, Montana, go to the Mineral Museum, you'll see a 2-foot tall crystal from the Sage Wall area. And they dug that up and they put that in the museum, and that is emanating pure tachyons. I live close to South. Why haven't I heard this before? I don't know. Look it up on YouTube. There's several videos. Julie Ryder is the tour guide there, so you can see video on that, but just type in YouTube Sage Walls, and then it'll have local. Anyway, it's Anunnaki. It is the progenitor of all of this construction that we have around the world. If you want to go from the pyramids of Egypt, you can go all the way around the world. And this is Sage Wall, north of Billings, is an Anunnakian situation. Facebook. Okay, right. Okay,
Facebook,
right.
yeah,
Okay,
okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank
you.
Right. Talk to Renee and get her on, and she can tell you. She can tell you things that she has clinical perspective, a clinical perspective.
Awesome.
So we're not
That's
talking
wonderful.
like we're not talking like random things. We're talking like she's gotten people on the couch, and done it, and she's done it again, and she's done it again. Different post-traumatic stresses, different walks of life. From fireman to soldier to nurse to whatever.
That is so needed. It's so wonderful.
And again, it goes back into the subconscious when you were younger, or maybe in a past life, that you couldn't deal with, and it comes forward. It just comes forward, and then that's why we're the way we are today.
Yes.
And I just want to say, if you're an adult, if you claim to be an adult, which I know a lot of people don't claim that anymore. If you claim to be an adult, then gee whiz, be an adult. Understand your environment. Get connected. Take responsibility. Transfer that love.
Yes.
Hug that child. Hug your mother. Hug your father. Whether they understand it or not.
Hug the old people.
Right. Hug them. Hug them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no one ever says please and thank you anymore.
I know.
I know.
My kids do.
Yeah,
mine do too. They better.
It's like, it's like, oh, I'm cranky all the time, and I don't want to, do anything that will help anybody else. Well, then, gee whiz, hug somebody. Somebody needs to hug you, and that will help that. That will help that, because the first thing a child doesn't want to do is say that they're alone. An orphan grows up with that. So it's so embedded in their mind that it's so embedded in their mind. And to be an orphan, to be alone, to feel that loneliness.
It's heartbreaking.
And now we're in New York City or Chicago or Los Angeles, and then everyone's alone. I'm the star. I'm the dude. I'm the it. It's like, no, man, you got to love. That's the only requirement.
It's true.
That's the only requirement the Creator wants for you, and that is to love. And,
yes.
and I'm sorry, but that's just the way. I didn't make the rules. I did not make the rules. And I'll tell you what's behind me here. That's the rule. That's the
I've
rule
never
of
been
law
good
right
at
there.
following rules. You can ask any of my brothers and
right.
sisters. I've never ever been one. It's almost like when forced with the rule, I always had to figure out why is that rule, and is that rule really for me, or is it for you? And I've always lived my life like that.
And I'm a hugger. I'm a hugger anyway.
Me too.
And I talked to Renee Nagel the other day, and I said, with my background, I have certain areas of my background I can't talk about, but I said, you get to the point where you can walk into a room and in 10 or 15 seconds, profile that person immediately. Yes. Just profile them. And you'll know their psychological profile just by the way they act, what they're doing.
Yes, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? And so I said, now I'm a little rusty now. It takes me, about probably, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds to size somebody up. But in the old days, you were like within 10 seconds, you'd walk into a room and say, is this guy delusional? Is this guy schizophrenic? You give them that label real quick. And like Renee and I were talking, we're blind to a lot of things. So like, we're kind of blind to our family, or whatever. We're kind of blind to certain things, but at the same time, it's like, no, we should be so involved. We should really have this mindfulness and awareness. Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's right. I'm pretty old myself. I'm pretty old. So
let's not go there. I turned 60 in May. Let's just not even go there.
There you go. You're younger than me, but anyway.
We wanted to first of all to thank you so very much for rocking everybody's world and blowing their minds. and
this is great.
for
Next to nothing.
expressing so much love. We really, really admire you. We appreciate so very much you sharing your wealth of mind with the group tonight.
Thank you.
And we are going to have to close, but we definitely will have you back again, because I still, there's so many things that I know that you know about that be helpful. Want to thank the audience. Please, everybody, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Please share us out. Also,
share.
Yes,
and please join Dark Horse Paranormal on the YouTube. We're trying to get more subscriptions over there.
Chris and Kristen are good people. They're good.
Yes, they are.
And
they're part of our family.
That's why I kind of got associated. But I just want to say one last thing is that if you're a female, the more you talk, the higher your estrogen will go.
Yeah.
And
does that make us more attractive?
I don't know. It depends. But if
or
you're
more annoying.
But no more annoying to a male. But anyway, if you're a male and you're quiet, your testosterone goes up.
Oh.
So where men are quiet and serious
in their cave,
they get very testosterone driven, and then the woman will walk in and start talking, and the reason why she starts talking is because she wants to raise her estrogen, and so
and it kind of creates an opposite effect.
So when you have a podcast and you guys are talking, you're the height of your day.
Oh, this is
well. Thank you. We hope it comes across well and not annoying with the estrogen. We don't, But if the men sit there quiet, their testosterone's going up, and their wives may be very happy with that after the show's over. So
probably blood pressure as well. But anyway,
So anyway, thank you again so very much.
Anytime.
Thank you.
We want to say love and light to everybody, and good night. Thank you so much.
Peace and light. Peace and light.
Yes.
Peace
thank
and love.
you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.